In this video, we want to look at one of the oldest games in the world, Backgammon. Backgammon is not only the oldest game, it's also the oldest board game. A board game is something you do on a board, like chess. The origins of backgammon goes back to Iran, and it was mainly played in West Asia. But in the 17th century, when the British enter Iran, they get familiar with this game and really like it, and they take it to the rest of the world. When backgammon started to take off in Europe in the 17th century, they used to call it the cruel game. And the reason for that is they also played chess and backgammon, and they would usually bet money on these games. Chess is a game that works with strategy and intelligence, and we have a complete video about it. But backgammon also needs the strategy and intelligence, but it also has RNG, because you have two dice you gotta play with. So they would usually use backgammon for gambling, and just because of a bad dice, they would lose and lose out on a lot of money, and that's why they called it the cruel game. In the Persian Sasanian Empire, they would call backgammon nard. At that time, they believed that Ardashir I, the founder of the Sasanian Empire, invented the game backgammon. But a lot of people believe that Ardashir I popularized this game in all of Iran, not invented it. And the reason they called backgammon nard is because they would call the king Nardashir, which means Ardashir the Brave, and the nard stuck to the game. Another important piece of history that has been written about backgammon is in the Shahnameh, the Persian book. In this book, it has been written that Bozorgmer, the minister of the Persian king, was the one that invented backgammon. The most interesting part about backgammon is that a lot of rules changed throughout the years, but two things stayed the same, and it was the dice. In ancient times, the dice would be made from bones. In the book of History of the Prophets and the Kings, the introduction of this game in this book is between Khosrow I and Dirsam, king of India. Dirsam wanted to show the Persians that the people of India are smarter than the Iranians. He sends his men with a very luxurious chess set, and the pieces were made from emeralds and rubies. The Indian king tells Khosrow I, king of Persia, that if you want us to pay taxes to your government, you're gonna have to figure out this game and let us know how it works. He gives the Iranians 40 days to figure out how this game works. After reading this letter, Khosrow I tries his hardest to figure out this game with his men. But none of the higher-ups could figure out how the game actually works. The men that were sent by the Indian king were watching all this take place, and they were becoming happy because the Persians weren't able to figure out how the game works, and they couldn't wait to let the king know that the Persians were defeated. But one of Khosrow I's minister figures out how the game works. He basically explains, if you imagine the game as pawn, king, minister, and other things, this board is like a battlefield, and you have to defeat the other team like it's a war. He had figured out how the game works. Khosrow gives his minister everything he wanted, and on the way back, when Khosrow explains how the game works, he sends him on his way with a backgammon set and explains to him, you guys should figure out how backgammon works and get back to us. If you figure out how it works, not only you don't have to pay us taxes, but we'll pay you taxes. In the east of Iran, an ancient city called Shahr-e-Sukhte, or Burnt City, the oldest backgammon set has been found. And this is the reason they say backgammon originated in Iran. The stories that are written in these legendary books could be made up because they're cool stories. But the origin of backgammon has always gone back to Iran. A lot of historians believe that the philosophy of the game came from ancient Iran, because everything related to their beliefs. The game has 30 pieces, which makes up 30 days in a month. It has 24 spots, which makes up 24 hours in a day. It has 4 sections on the board, which makes up 4 seasons. You have white, and black pieces, which make up day and night. Each half section has 12 spots, which make up 12 months in a year. The pieces moving in the game of backgammon symbolizes people going through life, and in the end, when one by one the pieces come out, that's death. So why does the dice only have 1 through 6? The 1 stands for one single God, 2 is the sky and earth, 3 stands for good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Number 4 is the 4 main elements of life. The number 5 is sun, moon, stars, fire, and lightning. And number 6 is the 6 days of being born, which is an ancient Iranian belief. It's very good to note that there is a very ancient board of backgammon found in Mesopotamia, and they believe this was the oldest backgammon in the world. But when they find an even older one in Shahr-e-Sukh, the burnt city of Iran, this is when it was certain that this is an ancient Iranian game. The oldest dice was also found in Shahr-e-Sukh, Iran, which was made up of bones, and this dice was made 2800 BC, near 5,000 years ago. Of course, the game is called backgammon in English, and you can even find Shakespeare writings where this game is mentioned with this name. But back then, they called it backgame, not backgammon. Nobody really knows where this backgame or backgammon came from, but a lot of British historians believe that the name backgammon came from a Welsh word, which means small battle, and this makes more sense for a game like this.